All right, everybody. Hello, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be my predictions for the UFC Fight Night Kape versus Azu. What's his name? Azu Almabayev. And I'm going to give you my predictions right now. But let me first check if my streams are working. Looks good on Twitch. How about YouTube? Just a second to click here. All right, but we can start with the first fight of the night. We see on that we are live, so just click on it. And we have the first fight of the night in the prelims. We have in the women's flyweight division, we have Montana De La Rosa versus Luana Carolina. De La Rosa, whenever she won in the UFC, she tried to grapple. She has decent finishing abilities, and she's very rudimentary on the feet. Carolina is basically the other way around. She has rudimentary grappling, but her takedown defense is pretty good, and her striking is pretty good. I think to win this fight and not lose a decision, because I don't think she can hold Carolina down for 3 rounds, so winning a grappling decision is going to be hard for De La Rosa, considering she does not seem to have the best cardio in the game. So I think De La Rosa needs a finish. And Carolina has proven that she's very, very hard to finish. So I'm leaning towards Luana Carolina in this one, unanimous decision. Unanimous decision. Next up, we have in the flyweight division, we have Charles Johnson versus Ramazan Temirov. It's a very good test for Temirov, I think. Especially because he's such a has such a high finishing quote. I think pretty high. I think. Where's my right tab? Here is it. I think he has a lot. And I researched Johnson, and Johnson hasn't been finished yet. Yeah, he's only 6 decisions, 12 finishes, most of them knockouts or TKOs. Yeah, so I think Charles Johnson's going to be a tough test for Ramazan Temirov, but I don't think he will fault. He might struggle, but I think he will pass this test. I think it's going to be a knockout. I think Charles Johnson's stand-up is just not good enough to protect him from the finishing blows. Moving on. We have in the women's flyweight division, I'm sorry, we have Andrea Lee versus JJ Aldrich. Yeah. I really don't like this fight at all, because they're both like mediocre fighters, I would say, in the UFC. Andrea Lee is kind of a grappler, but she usually lacks the skills to take her opponent down. And JJ Aldrich is all around decent, but has nothing really good. So the way I see it, Andrea Lee is going to try to grapple, but JJ Aldrich has shown in the past that she can deal with grapplers. She won a unanimous decision against Montana De La Rosa, who will fight earlier that night. And Lee hasn't looked good in a while. She's on a big losing streak. So I think JJ Aldrich will take this one in a unanimous decision. I don't see her finishing, because I don't think she has... How many finishes she has? I don't think she has many. She has 13 wins. And of those 13 wins, 3 are KO TKOs. No submissions, 10 decisions. Yep. Unanimous decision. Aldrich. Moving on. Featherweights. We have Danny Silva versus Lucas Almeida. And this one. I have to say they both haven't impressed in the UFC so far. I'm leaning a little bit towards Danny Silva because he has by far the experience edge. And he has a lot of finishing ability, and this could be a longer fight, and I think in the long run, Danny Silva will take this by TKO. So, Danny Silva, TKO. Excuse me. Yeah, I just put this in the wrong order. Did I? No. Yeah. TKO Silva, I think, but it could go the other way around. I think Lucas Almeida... Ah, that's why I have it the other way around. Silva has not much experience. Almeida is the one with more experience. And I think he's gonna... Yeah. Yeah. I think he's gonna take it. My bad. I'm leaning towards Almeida because of his experience. I had just... My notes were wrong. All right, Almeida TKO, I think. But it could go the other way. Danny Silva has a lot of hype behind him, but I don't think after a performance such as against Josh Koulibaly, didn't look too good. I'm sorry. We move on. Next up, we have the bantamweights. We have Douglas Silva de Andrade versus John Castaneda. And yeah, I have to say, Douglas Silva de Andrade is always fun to watch because he always throws with everything. He's also usually looking a little bit sluggish. But he really looks so dangerous. The way he throws, it's just everything into it. If he hits you, you're going out. And that's fun to watch, I think. Also thrilling, but fun to watch. Castaneda, on the other hand, I don't know much. I mean, he's been in the UFC for a while. No. Yes, yeah, he's been in the UFC for a while, but kind of switched in between wins and losses. Hasn't beaten except for Nathaniel Wood, but I don't think... Was that the fight that Nathaniel Wood should have gotten the win? I'm not sure. That's the robbery on the on Nathaniel Wood's record. It might be. He has a win over Miles John. Oh, he lost. I'm sorry, he lost against Wood, so it can't be the robbery. He won against Miles Johns. That's a decent win, I think. Eddie Wineland after his prime, yeah. No. I think Douglas Silva de Andrade's power will be too much. I think he's gonna catch him sooner or later. TKO. Silva de Andrade is my pick. We move on to the featherweights. We have Ricardo Ramos versus Jepe Mariscal. Yeah, I have to say, for this one, the matchup's kind of weird to me because Ramos is a ruthless kickboxer. He throws with bad intention. He's kind of skinny, but he still generates a lot of power. On the other hand, Mariscal is very, very tough. And he's kind of on a winning streak, but in this winning streak, like 2 of his last 4 fights, I think, were split decision wins. So it's a kind of iffy win streak. But yeah, still it's a winning streak that he's on. But I think Ramos still has too much power. Sooner or later he's gonna crack him. And probably Mariscal is gonna take it at first, but sooner or later he's gonna crumble because he doesn't have the tools to really contest Ramos on the feet. I don't think. So I'm leaning towards TKO for Ricardo Ramos. Moving on, we have the heavyweights. We have Austin Lane versus Mario Pinto. Austin Lane. He hasn't looked great in the UFC. Pinto makes his debut, but he looks very impressive before his debut. And as I said, Austin Lane so far has shown me nothing that tells me he has title aspirations or anything like that. So I'm leaning towards Mario Pinto. The way he fights, probably TKO. Moving on, we have the main card. We start off with welterweights. We have Danny Barlow versus Sam Patterson. I have to say, Barlow has a strong resume, but he really could not convince in his debut. He had a split decision win against Veretennikov, and we just saw Veretennikov get completely shut down and dominated by a little bit of wrestling. As I said in the video before, he looked really helpless. And Patterson has looked great so far, except for the London card where he it looked a little bit like the hype got to him a little bit, and then he got knocked out very, very quickly. But I think since this is not in London, Sam Patterson's gonna get back on track, and he's a strong grappler. So I think Patterson by submission. Yeah. Patterson submission. Moving on. We have the featherweights. We have Haider Amil versus William Gomis. Yeah. Amil is all the hype. He's well-rounded. He's a finisher. So far, Gomis has been struggling in the UFC in his career. So I'm guessing that Amil's hype train will continue. And my prediction is a TKO for Haider Amil. We move on. We got the lightweights. Nasrat Hakparast versus Esteban Ribovic. Yeah. Nasrat Hakparast. Somehow he's on a 3-fight winning streak. He's really not the most well-rounded fighter, that's why it's surprising to me when I check the stats, because he's a stand-up only guy. Ribovic is much more well-rounded. He has a lot more grappling experience and credentials, and I think this is going to play a role in this fight. It might actually be a stand-up fight, but just the threat of the takedown might help Ribovic in this one. So I'm leaning towards Ribovic, but I don't think he's gonna finish Hakparast because Hakparast he's crafty. He does not give up on himself, so he's tough to finish. So I think it's gonna be a unanimous decision towards Esteban Ribovic. Moving on, we have the co-main event. The co-main event. We have middleweights. We have Cody Brundage versus Julian Marquez. Are you serious? That's the co-main event, yeah? That's the fight that makes no sense for me on the card. No disrespect towards either fighter, but I'm sorry. Out of your last 5 fights, you lost. Out of your last 6 fights, you lost 4. Cody Brundage, I'm sorry. And you've been finished a lot. I'm sorry. You haven't convinced me that you're a top dog at all. And Julian Marquez on a 3-fight losing streak. Of course, he lost to Robocop first. And Robocop just showed against Cannonier that he can crack. Still, he lost to Barrio in the 2nd round after a standing TKO. And then he lost to Zach Reese in the 1st round. So I'm really not sure how this became the co-main event. I really don't understand it. But okay. It's the co-main event. And I'm gonna tell you who I'm picking. I'm just looking at the stats and I'm seeing that Marquez has been finished in his last 3. Even though Brundage has lost a lot, he's still very, very dangerous, especially early. And like I said, Marquez has been finished early in his last couple of fights. So I think Brundage is going to get his signature early stoppage by TKO, probably in the 1st round. How is this co-main event? I don't... Whatever. Moving on to the main event of the evening. We have the flyweights. We have Manel Kape versus Azu Almabayev. The return of Manel Kape after his last performance was really good. Everybody wanted to see more. Now with all toes intact. Well, he's fighting Azu Almabayev. Almabayev is a grappler, but I don't think he's as good of a grappler as Mohamed Mokaev. And Mohamed Mokaev could not control or consistently take Manel Kape down. He couldn't. He won that fight against Kape, but it was a really weird, bad fight. Was not the domination that Mokaev would have wanted out of it. But I still think that Mokaev is a better grappler than Almabayev. So in the long run, I think there's a couple of ways this fight could play out. Almabayev could win like 1 or 2 rounds with some timely placed takedowns and some control time. I'm not saying that Kape can't be in a bad position on Saturday for a couple of minutes. I think he probably will be, but I don't think he's gonna be finished. He's gonna get out of there and he's gonna keep it on the feet for the most time. That's my prediction for the fight. Whether that means he's gonna catch Almabayev early and knock him out, or if he's gonna do what he did last, like do a torero kinda moves, dancing around his opponent and showing him off and showing him how badly he's missing him and that he can't hit him while he's hitting whenever he wants to. Could be both, but I don't think that Almabayev will be a problem on the feet for Manel Kape. Unless he gets overconfident, which he usually is. So I think there's always possibility for a Manel Kape to get cracked. Because he's so confident and he always puts out his chin. A well-timed strike could end all of that. But I don't think that Almabayev is the guy to do that, so I'm leaning strongly towards Manel Kape. I think it's either going to be a decision or a TKO. I'm leaning more towards a TKO by Manel Kape. So, those are my picks for the weekend. I hope you had fun or enlightenment, whatever. Yeah, that's it for today. I'll talk to you guys after the fights, and yeah, let's hope for some nice fights. I think especially this main event could be a banger. We'll see. All right, see you guys. Have a nice day. Have a nice rest of the week, and we see each other Saturday very, very late.